Japan Part 13. As we continue with it, in the late 1970s, as Japanese automobiles became so competitive that they were already outselling American-produced automobiles in California, Japanese car manufacturers raised prices to restrain exports to the United States and thereby avoid more serious American protectionism. In textiles, steel, television, and automobiles, informal restraints on Japanese exports to the United States relieve immediate trade tension, but as long as this informal protection continues, it reduces pressures for the American industries to rise to Japanese standard of competitiveness. In international trade, the Japanese have had to learn to communicate in English and to adopt patterns of trade developed and originally dominated by Western countries. Despite these obvious disadvantages, the Japanese have begun to dominate international commerce as they dominate industrial production. Mitsubishi Trading Company, Mitsui Bussan, Sumitomo Trading Company, C. Ito, Marubeni, and Nisho Iwai are rivaled only by each other, not by any foreign trading company. For example, these 6 companies, to say nothing of other large Japanese trading companies, conduct over half the two-way trade between United States and Japan. Because of their superior information and contracts around the world, a sizable portion of international trade not involving Japan is now channeled through these large trading firms. Japanese investment in the United States already exceeds American investment in Japan and is growing at much more rapid pace, at such a rapid rate. As more Japanese companies establish plots and purchase stocks and property in the United States, stagnation has been a serious problem in most modern countries, and both the Americans and the Japanese governments are reluctant to stimulate their economies substantially, for the fear that the government urged the overstimulating the economy, leading to a very high rate of inflation for over a year. Except for this brief period, however, in recent years, Japan has not only maintained a higher growth rate than the United States, but has kept its increase in whole price index lower. During the 1950s, economic success was partly at the expense of the Japanese consumer, and the social infrastructure for wage raises lagged behind growth and productivity increases. However, in recent years, per capita income and the ownership of the consumer goods have grown about as fast as the gross national product, and therefore far more rapidly than in other countries. So striking has been the growth of the consumer's purchasing power that foreigners in Japan now have difficulty maintaining the standard of the living of their Japanese counterparts. Without special allowances, and Japanese in America consider luxury goods and restaurants very moderate in price. There are many ways to calculate the personal income, but if one includes the subsidized housing, by 1978, Japanese wages had already surpassed American levels and are continuing to grow at a faster rate. To be sure, sewage systems are not yet universal, and house sizes and car ownership still lag behind the United States. Although the gaps are narrowing, the retail distribution sector is not as difficult, is not as efficient as America's, and the prices are high by international standards. Using conventional price indices, Japanese wages as of 1978 still by less.